Let us pray. Our Father, we confidently ask for your strength and encouragement in our service of you through our service of others. We ask for your gift of wisdom to guide us in making good laws and good decisions for the present and the future of Alberta. Amen.
Introduction of visitors. Presenting petitions.
To a member for Calgary Mountain View.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to file a copy of a petition from 100 high school students at Ernest Manning Senior High School asking that class environmental assessment be required and full environmental impact assessments be required on all forestry developments before they're allowed to proceed.
Reading and receiving petitions. Presenting reports by standing and special committees. Notices of motions.
Member for Edmonton Meadowlark.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to give notice under Standing Order 40 that I will be presenting the following motion for debate after question period. The motion reads, "Be it resolved that the Government of Alberta congratulate the University of Alberta Environmental Association, the Environmental Campus Organization, the Association for Environmental Concerns Today, and the Edmonton Bicycle Commuters on their rally today at the University, and encourage them in their efforts to organize the No Car Day at the University of Alberta on April 6, 1990.
Introduction of bills. Tabling returns and reports.
Member for Edmonton Jasper Place.
Table a copy of the list of internationally renowned scientists involved with the ALPAC EIA Review Board. I have copies for all honorable members.
Oh, good.
The Attorney General.
I take pleasure in tabling the annual report for the Public Service Employee Relations Board, 1988-89, and the 16th annual report, 1989, of the Alberta Law Foundation.
Minister of Advanced Education.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to table today the following annual reports: Alberta Advanced Education, 1988-89, the Alberta Heritage Scholarship Fund, 1988-89, the Banff Centre, 1988-89, Grand Prairie Regional College, 1988-89, and, Mr. Speaker, Lakeland College Annual Report, 1988-89.
Introduction of special guests.
The Associate Minister of Family Life and Social Services.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. It gives me a great deal of pleasure to introduce to you, and through you to the rest of the members of this Assembly, 38 young students from the town of Olds, from Olds Junior High. And these students are accompanied, Mr. Speaker, by Dale McFarlane, Gary Woodruff, both of whom are teachers, Vicky Salowich, Ron Hilton, Reg Scarrett, and Rosaline Jaskula. And I'd ask that they rise and receive the warm welcome of this Assembly.
Edmonton Kingsway, followed by Pinoka.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure today to introduce to you and through you to members of the Assembly two groups of students from the Alberta Vocational Centre. They are English as a second language groups. One group has 15 people and are accompanied by their teacher, Roberta Brosseau. And the other group, 13 members, and they are accompanied by Cheryl Wilson, their teacher, and the teacher aide, Claire Algaray. I'm not sure if I pronounced that last name correctly. Anyway, I would request that they stand, they're in the public gallery, and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly.
Pinoka.
Mr. Speaker, today I'm pleased to be able to introduce to you and through you to members of the Assembly 54 students from Rimbey Junior Senior High School located in the friendly town of Rimbey. Mr. Speaker, they are accompanied today by their teachers, Miss Marg Ramsey and Miss Sandra Arthurson, and parents, Mrs. E. Guterink, Mrs. F. Ellithorpe, and Mrs. B. Penier. Mr. Speaker, they are seated in both galleries, and I would ask the members of the Legislative Assembly to give them the traditional warm welcome of this House.
Minister of Family and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a pleasure for me to be able to introduce to you and through you to the members of the Legislative Assembly a outstanding Albertan, a former member of this Assembly and a former Attorney General from the constituency of Red Deer South, Mr. Jim Foster, and he is seated, I believe, Mr. Speaker, in the public gallery, and I'd ask that he rise and receive the recognition of this Assembly.
Redwater Andrew.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today it's a pleasure for me to introduce to you and through you to the Assembly a student, grade 6 student from the Gibbons School who lives in the Redwater Andrew constituency, Jonathan Saunders. Mr. Speaker, the reason I'm doing this is because Jonathan studied government social studies and was so impressed with it that he brought his whole family here to see the government in action, and I ask that Jonathan and his family rise and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly.
Thank you. Member for Tabor Warner.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to introduce to you and through you to members of the Assembly, Mr. Hovey Reese, the chairman of the County of Warner School Committee. Mr. Reese is in Edmonton for meetings relating to both school and county, and it's always good to see a friend back in our Assembly. Members, join with me in welcoming him to our Assembly.
Member for St. Paul. Member for St. Paul. Member for St. Paul, do you have some guests in the Speaker's Gallery? We'll come back to that. Thank you.
Ministerial statements.
Minister of Consumer and Corporate Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to inform the Assembly that the life and health insurance industry has agreed to establish a compensation plan that will make sure that insurance coverage will be available to policyholders even if their company runs into financial difficulty. Today I signed an agreement with the insurance industry that will put this plan into effect in Alberta. The Canadian Life and Health Insurance Compensation Plan, which is similar to the one in place for property and casualty insurance, goes into effect immediately. It will provide coverage to policyholders of insolvent life and health insurers to the following limits: $200,000 of life insurance protection, $60,000 of accrued cash values, and $2,000 income per month for disability policies or annuities. Mr. Speaker, this plan is intended to be nationwide. Alberta is the first province to sign the agreement. It was the provincial governments which advocated to the insurance industry for the development of such a plan. And while most companies have joined on a voluntary basis, Alberta now has made participation mandatory for all life and health insurance companies doing business in this province. This initiative is part of our commitment to ensure consumers are not faced with unfair risks when making responsible purchases of financial products or services.
Member for Edmonton Highlands.
Mr. Speaker, I think the measure that has just been announced by the Minister of Consumer and Corporate Affairs is worthy of the support of all fair-minded people in the province. However, I point out to the Minister that perhaps you want to look at protecting consumers in other categories, such as with respect to travel agents and protection for people who put their money up and then lose it when those companies go bankrupt. And I would hope that in this sitting of the Assembly that the Minister would follow through with that type of legislation and policy. Thank you.
Oral question period.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, 83 years ago, the Alberta Government Telephones was established to serve the needs of all Albertans, not just the interests of corporate conglomerates like Belltel. Now the federal government wants to change the legislation governing telecommunications, basically to override a 1989 Supreme Court decision so that the feds can impose their own rules on Alberta's jurisdiction. And I understand that the Minister for Telecommunications and Technology and Research opposes that legislation, and so does the official opposition. But I wonder, Mr. Speaker, why it is, if the Minister does in fact oppose that legislation, why he's willing to jeopardize our position by considering selling even so much as one share in AGT, knowing full well that if he does that, the whole case is lost to the feds.
Mr. Speaker, I take the opportunity to bring the honourable member up to date. The matter of jurisdiction over telecommunications in this province was well settled by the Supreme Court of Canada. They did that in the case of AGT and CNCP. They therefore have that authority, but it's up to us, and indeed we're pursuing it, to endeavour to reach agreement with the federal government to ensure the very points that the honourable member raises, namely to ensure quality service continues, is fully accessible, and at reasonable rates in the future for the customers of AGT.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I understand that the Minister acknowledged yesterday that he expects local rates would rise for phone users in Alberta, and I would point out that the Ollie report, which was paid for in part by the Alberta government, suggests that monthly service increases could rise by up to 139 or 167% even if we give in to the new federal law. So why is the Minister then prepared to subject Albertans to the onerous fees for the basic right of using a natural utility?
Well, I'm afraid the honourable member still doesn't understand the situation. It's not a matter of giving in at all. But there are, if you look around, not only at the law that prevails in these circumstances, but as well as what's going on in Canada and indeed worldwide, one will see that there are indeed trends towards rate rebalancing, with or without what you may refer to as privatization. It is a fact of life that there will be more competition. It is a fact of life that there will be more deregulation. Our challenge, and indeed it's an opportunity as well, is to position AGT so that we can address the needs of all Albertans, yet meet the challenges and the opportunities in the worldwide marketplace of $300 billion in the marketplace of telecommunications, and at the same time make sure that AGT is positioned to best look after the needs of Albertans now and into the future.
What he's really saying, Mr. Speaker, is local rates should rise and people should pay a lot more for basic services. That's what he's saying. Mr. Speaker, I understand that the Premier said last week with respect to Oslo, and I'd like to quote, that the private sector is far better off to wait until the demand is there, and quote again, because, the quote starts again, their only obligation is to the shareholders. Now, it seems to me, Mr. Speaker, that that's exactly the case with AGT. Many parts of Alberta would not have quality service were it not for the public ownership of AGT. Does the Premier not agree that a privatized AGT would only respond to the bottom line and that Albertans could stand to pay more for a lot less service?
Well, perhaps, Mr. Speaker, that might be the way it would happen if the honourable member was involved in it. But the government of Alberta obviously has a responsibility to the people of the province to make sure there is legislation that will continue to protect the interests of the people of the province. The Honourable Minister of Research and Technology has explained that to the member, and she should just wait and see how things develop.
Second main question.
Until it's privatized. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to designate the second question to the member for Edmonton Strathcona.
Edmonton Strathcona.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Attorney General and concerns the hazardous chase policies of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police and indeed any other police in the province. Honourable members are aware, of course, that in the last 6 months there's been a rash of deaths following hazardous police chases, and either at the end of the chase or during the chase. And we had hoped that the inquiry into the Disbury one, conducted under the Fatality Inquiries Act, would come up with some good recommendations or definite recommendations as to the existing policies of the police. As I'm sure the Attorney General is aware, the learned judge who delivered the verdict there says that, in his opinion, the necessary findings are beyond his power, and he asks, therefore, for a public inquiry of some sort. My question to the Attorney General is, what are his intentions in calling this public inquiry either a public inquiry proper or a review by the Law Enforcement Review Board?
Mr. Speaker, the tragedy that occurred at Didsbury with the Sim family and the family from BC is very unfortunate. In terms of highway pursuits, which is with the RCMP in Alberta, is truly under the jurisdiction of the Solicitor General, the recommendation and the Fatality Inquiry Act is definitely my jurisdiction. Having not been in the building this morning, I was only apprised of this decision as I was coming into the Assembly, and I understand that the judge sitting on the Fatality Inquiry said that he could not find guilt, which of course is true because the Fatality Inquiry is not for that purpose, and has suggested that there be an inquiry either under the Public Inquiries Act or the Police Act to investigate or to determine ways to stop this tragedy. I will certainly take that under advisement. I understand the report is approximately 40 to 50 pages. I'd like to have a chance to peruse that, find out what the rationale and reasoning is. I can share with the Assembly and the Honourable Member that in a recent meeting with the Deputy Commissioner of the RCMP from Ottawa, he says there is an intense investigation underway now to determine if there needs to be a change in the policy. The province of Alberta seems to be unique in some way with fatality inquiries, certainly within the RCMP, where we have 11 or 12 in the past. Whether that's a coincidence or not, we don't know. But in other provinces, there's very few, and that perhaps, and this is not his comments, it's mine, perhaps we have to study the driving habits of the citizens of Alberta and not just the policing activities. So that investigation is underway. I will take the report under advisement and see whether we do need an inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, I'm in no way imputing blame on the mounted police. They have to respond to these situations which are dangerous to start with, but that's the question. What should be the policy? And in view of the fact that it's not just a provincial matter, does the Attorney General contemplate that there might be cooperation with Ottawa in having a wider inquiry than a merely provincial one?
Well, I can share that in my conversations with the RCMP that they're as interested as anybody to determine if there is something the matter with their policy or whether it's an abridgment of that policy that has been the case. We do have, as the Honourable Member alluded, a jurisdictional problem if we were going to determine or do an inquiry on the RCMP, because they do come under federal jurisdiction, and it would have to be with their agreement and complicity that such an inquiry could be taken that would have any strong recommendations. After reading the report and a discussion, and certainly the involvement of the Solicitor General, who has that direct responsibility, we will report back.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, it was a surprise, I think, to all of us that the learned judge felt he couldn't make these recommendations. And does this perhaps not point to a weakness in the terms of reference of fatality inquiries? And would the Attorney General undertake to look into that in case they can be improved so as not to waste, in effect, a rather expensive and certainly not short inquiry?
Mr. Speaker, I certainly can take that suggestion under consideration, but I don't think there's anything wrong with the Fatality Inquiries Act. What it was designed to do was to act who, what, where, why, and when, and generally those types of things can be determined. Imputing liability, criminal or civil, is not the purpose of the Fatality Inquiry Act, and if the judge in this particular instance is quizzing whether that is beyond his jurisdiction with the Fatality Inquiries Act, there are other methods. If it's purely to get to the basis of the chase policy, then I'm not so sure that a public inquiry is necessary, but again, I will go back and study the report and together with the Solicitor General determine our policy and report back.
Leader of the Liberal Party.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Premier, to the delight of Albertans, informed Albertans that he and the Minister of Environment were on the same team. Same team dealing with the... Don't believe it, folks. Don't believe it. Although sometimes one has to wonder about the Minister of Environment. Mr. Speaker, the Premier has done a complete about-face on this matter, criticizing the review panel's recommendations, saying that they were unbalanced, the process was unbalanced. Today, a respected scientist who is a member of that review panel challenged the Premier to appoint people from the Royal Society of Canada, scientists, who could impartially help assess or review the review. For the record, my first question is for the Minister of Environment. I think it's important to straighten out the record. I'd like to ask the Minister of Environment whether he shares the Premier's position that the ALPAC hearings were in fact unbalanced and that they simply mirrored that which opposition said and not the reverse or the other side of the argument.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Premier's entitled to his opinion. I'm not about to muzzle the Premier. This is a party, Mr. Speaker, that has the opportunity for open and honest discussion. Relative to the question, Mr. Speaker, we plan to do a full assessment of the recommendations contained in the ALPAC report. We plan to announce within days an independent firm that can undertake a detailed study of the scientific findings of the report. We plan to do a study of the chlorinated organics as they affect the fish in the lower reaches of the Athabasca River. And I don't know how the scientists that the Honourable Leader of the Liberal Party refers to can hope to complete that particular study in a day or a week or 2 weeks, because we feel it's going to take us at least 2 years to complete that kind of work and get proper, good information.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I don't think that the Honourable Minister heard the question. The question was, after some 8,000 pages of evidence that the Minister said couldn't be ignored, after the most comprehensive review in Canadian history, as the Minister quite correctly noted, is the Minister in agreement with the position taken by the Premier, and that is that this review panel process was unsound and that the process was not proper?
Mr. Speaker, the Premier at no time ever said that the findings were unsound. That is just a bunch of balderdash.
The environment is still up. Order. Thank you, Minister of the Environment.
If the Honourable Leader of the Liberal Party would take the time to read Hansard, you would find that the Premier had some very, very good things to say about the LPAC review. And he expressed an opinion relative to some things that he perceived to be a deficiency in the review. And the Premier is entitled to his opinion. Every individual in this Legislative Assembly is entitled to an opinion. Even the honorable leader of the Liberal Party is entitled to an opinion. If he could express a proper one, people might listen to him from time to time.
Right. It's my opinion, Mr. Speaker, that they're not on the same team. Mr. Speaker, in view of my question is to the Premier. My question is to the Premier. In view of the challenge made by the distinguished scientist that was part of the review panel, asking the Premier to consider putting people on from the Royal Society rather than simply going and getting pals to say what you want to say, is the Premier prepared to take up that challenge and to appoint people from the Royal Society?
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member really does have a responsibility in a legislature to be different than when he's outside. Within the legislature, surely he has to deal with some semblance of fact. Surely there's a responsibility on someone who is elected by the people of Alberta to come into the legislature to deal with the facts, and as they're here before us, both as we explained them yesterday and as they're in Hansard. And to have the honourable member to start so badly the facts is certainly not doing it any credit to his party, certainly no credit to this legislature. He knows that the government has a independent technical analysis about to commence. Independent technical analysis from world experts. Now he says, today we're faced with that fact, that we are getting our friends to tell us what we want. Now, how can those two, can he be talking the facts? I mean, he has a responsibility in here. I understand outside of the legislature you can get away with all that kind of nonsense. But here, you're elected now by the people of Alberta, and you have a responsibility for facts and truth, and would you please conduct yourself that way?
Calgary Milliken, followed by Edmonton Jasper Place.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I understand, under provincial law in the province of Alberta, to ask somebody to vacate a premises where they have a living unit, dwelling unit, we allow 3 months. Unfortunately, in this province, I guess we have something like 25,000 suites that are non-conforming or illegal suites. These are often basements in a home or a duplex that has been converted into a fourplex. And in the city of Calgary now, we have the city bylaw enforcement officer are after some of the landlords for these suites, and in turn the landlords are after the renters who are the victims in the situation, and they're giving them very short eviction notices. I've had some calls lately that as short as they must be out by the end of April. So can the Minister of Corporate and Consumer Affairs, who's responsible for the landlord-tenant issues, please advise, do these tenants, do they also have some rights?
Mr. Speaker, the Landlord and Tenant Act passed by this Assembly says that anybody who occupies a residential premise has the right to 3 clear months' notice before being evicted from a premises. That's the current act. That is, in fact, the rights that Albertans hold if they're in a residential premise or one that is self-contained by definition of the act.
Supplementary question, Mr. Speaker. Most of these people that are receiving these notices are in a self-contained living unit, dwelling unit, and a lot of them are parents, some single-family parents with children. And actually, if they do get 3 months, that'll take them to the end of the school year. Could the minister advise if he will inform the city of Calgary and perhaps use his good office to see if we can strike a balance that these people aren't penalized, and they don't have to pull their children out of school prior to the end of this school year, because 3 months from now, school will be out, and it'll be a lot of assistance to these people, Mr. Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I can inform the honourable members and the Assembly that, in fact, we have talked to the City of Calgary. City of Calgary has indicated that they will comply with provisions of the Act in giving the required 3 months' notice. If the honourable members aware of any individuals who are not being afforded that right as they have under law, I'd be glad to discuss with the City of Calgary those individual cases.
Edmonton Jasper, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Earlier today, I tabled a list of 10 world-renowned scientists who gave their work to the ALPAC EIA Review Board. Some of them work for government, some for industry, some at universities, and some in private practice. Now, the Premier is entitled to his opinion, and I'll defend that. But what he's not entitled to do is to call their work unbalanced. He's not entitled to say that they fail to critically assess information. He's not entitled to say their recommendations are skewed. As recently as yesterday, he was on television saying, he questioned their analysis, he said their report lacks depth. Don knows depth, all right.
Yeah, right.
I want to know if the Premier is going to stop hiding behind all this political double talk and take advantage of the offer to refer this professional question to a professional committee of the Royal Society and have it settled.
First of all, Mr. Speaker, it's the same question the leader of the Liberal Party posed, so I guess they must be pooling their research dollars over there. But Mr. Speaker, we've already put in place the process that the government's going through to assess the report. I want to also clear the honourable member's mind of those terms that he used. He may be getting them from somewhere, but he isn't getting them from me. And, Mr. Speaker, there are many people who present reports to the government. I said yesterday, my good friend Mr. Lou Heinemann, the Ombudsman, the Auditor General. And where is this sudden magic that everybody is supposed to accept every report carte blanche? Why is that? And where do we get this high-flying rhetoric from the honourable member that if you don't accept it carte blanche right off the bat, without assessing it, that somehow you're denigrating the people who did it? Now, I've never heard such nonsense before. We are not denigrating Mr. Heinemann by not accepting his report totally without going through an assessment. We don't denigrate the Auditor General by taking the time to assess his reports, or the Ombudsman, or the Premier's Council on Disabilities. These are a series of reports that come to us, and in a measured, responsible way, we're taking the time to assess them. And that's what the people of Alberta want us to do.
The Premier hasn't called Mr. Heinemann unbalanced. He hasn't accused him of failing to critically assess information. He hasn't said that his recommendations are skewed. He hasn't questioned his analysis. He hasn't said his report lacks depth. That's the difference. Until yesterday, the Environment Minister said that he was not invited to the secret meeting held in the Premier's office. Until yesterday, the Environment Minister said that there would be a new EIA when the new ALPAC project comes in tomorrow. As of yesterday, the Environment Minister is no longer prepared to say either of those things. I would like the Premier to tell us what he said to the Minister of the Environment to change his behavior so dramatically in one day.
Trash.
Well, I can't, Mr. Speaker, the honourable member, please frame his questions with some semblance of fact. I know he's unintentionally distorting because he has a lack of the facts, but please take the time to acquire some facts and place a question, because I'm eager to answer your questions to help you.
Yeah. Member for Edmonton Calder.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's clear that this government has been in power too long and is not working towards a healthy future for Albertans, especially exactly children, Mr. Speaker. Teachers, foster parents, Native people, social workers, hospital personnel, counselors, parents are all extremely concerned about the high caseloads in child welfare. And it's my understanding that caseload size is a priority in this year's round of negotiations. To the Minister of Family and Social Services, given that in many instances a child in this province must wait up to 3 weeks before an investigation is to take place, and children are not getting the services that they deserve, will this minister show that he cares about these children and make a commitment immediately to lower child welfare caseloads? Good idea.
Well, Mr. Speaker, certainly this minister cares and this government cares. And the member knows full well that our financial commitment to child welfare is very substantive in this province. It once again had a large increase in this year's budget, as the member knows. The member should know too, Mr. Speaker, that because of my concerns, that I took it upon myself to meet with child care caseworkers, frontline child care caseworkers from each and every office that we have located right across this province. I had, through that opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to be able to assess directly some of the concerns and issues that were important to them. I would want to assure that member, and I would want to assure this Legislative Assembly, that we are concerned about the caseload that some of our workers are required to carry, and we are working with them, and we're working through a joint consultative process to address those concerns, Mr. Speaker, and I think that we're making some meaningful progress.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The health and well-being of children are being placed at risk in this province because the caseloads are too high. Children are waiting up to 3 weeks to get some help, and yet this minister has cut funding in his budget for intake and investigation in child welfare. How can this minister justify placing children at risk by cutting his budget for investigations in child welfare and not making a commitment in this assembly today to lower caseloads? Hear, hear.
Well, again, Mr. Speaker, our commitment to providing the children that need our support is strong, Mr. Speaker. There aren't children that are in urgent situations that are waiting 3 weeks. That isn't happening in Alberta. If it's an urgent situation, Mr. Speaker, we are responding to it on an urgent basis, and we're responding very, very quickly. Again, Mr. Speaker, I think if we look at the services that we make available to children in this province that require our help, Mr. Speaker, it's exhaustive. I'm more than satisfied that not only are our caseworkers doing an extraordinary job of addressing those needs, but they're also doing a good job, Mr. Speaker, of working with communities at addressing those needs. And together, and along with foster parents, I should be mentioning that and acknowledging the good work of the foster parents in this province, Mr. Speaker, and I want to say again that this minister is working very closely with them. And together we're going to continue to assure that the needs of the children of Alberta under our care are being met 100%.
Edmonton Meadowlark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, proponents of the Endangered Spaces program argue that ecological reserves are lifeboats to our future. They are because the understanding and the preservation of wilderness areas and of our complex ecosystems are critical to protecting and sustaining the environmental health of our province. Judging by the tremendous response last night to the Endangered Spaces rally at the Jubilee Auditorium, it's very clear that a great number of Albertans are concerned that we are not setting aside sufficient wilderness reserves fast enough. My question is to the Premier. Will the Premier please endorse the Endangered Spaces program by requiring that at least one ecological reserve of adequate size be set aside reflecting each of the 17 ecological regions of this province, that at least 12% of the province be protected in its natural state by the year...
Whoa. Thank you. Paragraph 3. 2's enough. Premier?
Mr. Speaker, representations from the honourable member and from other Albertans and people in this province are always considered by the government as we fulfill the responsibilities that we have as a government. We will consider them in a balanced way, We will see if it's possible to do these things. The Minister of Recreation and Parks and the Minister of Forestry, Fish and Wildlife and Lands will also be involved, and we will treat these matters in a responsible, reasonable way.
You've had 10 years to consider representations and to implement this program properly. At least in considering these representations from this member and from the residents of Alberta, could the Premier please tell us how he can possibly allow the Minister of Recreation and Parks not only to put a freeze on wilderness reserve development in this province, but while we wait, asking his department officials to scale down the size of 3 ecological reserves that are currently under consideration by his department?
Estimates. Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Minister of Recreation and Parks will be in the legislature soon. And his estimates will be in the House as well. And I would expect that the Honourable Member would have the courtesy to wait until he's here and raise these issues with him. I think they may have an interesting debate between them as to the accuracy of the Honourable Member's questions, but I think the legislature gives a perfect opportunity for the Honourable Member to make his representations.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to supplement the answers of the Honourable Premier. It's the Endangered Species Campaign is one that I think is an excellent one and which we are supportive of. In fact, we're providing leadership in many areas. For example, the Prairie Conservation Coordinating Committee is unique in Canada. We hope other provinces will follow our lead. It's really the largest multi-partite environmental group that's met in this country and dealing with trying to protect areas that are representative across this province. It'll be working together with the Minister of Recreation and Parks and myself in a very dedicated way. And I have to say, too, that the Deputy Premier and I were in Medicine Hat to meet with the Prairie Action Coordinating Committee and discussed at length with them the direction that we'll be taking to see that Alberta continues to provide the leadership it has in the past with protecting land areas.
Edmonton Whitemud.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on March the 20th, in response to a question of mine on the firing of 3 individuals who were part of Liberal campaigns, the Minister of Public Works, Supply and Services stated, according to Hansard, and let me quote directly, the gentleman, first of all, Mr. McMahon was not fired or terminated. The gentleman resigned from his position with the public service in the province of Alberta. Further on, he states, in the case of one Don McMahon, the gentleman was not fired or terminated. He resigned, Mr. Speaker. And once more, the minister states, Mr. McMahon was not fired or terminated. This particular individual resigned under his own volition. My question, Mr. Speaker, in view of the fact that I've been informed that 3 months of negotiations on behalf of government occurred and Don McMahon was eventually given an out-of-court settlement to the Minister of Labour responsible for personnel. Is it government policy to negotiate settlements with employees who leave on their own volition?
Mr. Speaker, it's true that I'm responsible for Public Administration Office, but it is also true that the individual cases are the responsibilities of the individual departments, and I believe the Minister responsible for Public Works has answered these questions in the House, and I would invite his acting minister to supplement questions.
Mr. Speaker.
Minister for the Minister for Public Works, Supply and Services, who's not here today due to an illness, I'd be pleased to take those answers under advisement for him because I believe they were partially responded to, but the Honourable Member for Edmonton Whitemud has raised another series of questions in regard to that.
Mr. Speaker, in view of the fact that I'm not getting clear answers to questions of policies, to the Premier.
Order, Honourable Member. Beauchesne clearly states that that's an inappropriate comment, so let's get on with the question. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, to the Premier, will the Premier give this Assembly his undertaking that his office will investigate this complete situation as to why negotiations went on for 3 months to arrive at an out-of-court settlement if this individual, Don McMahon, left on his own volition?
Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Labour, the Acting Minister of Public Works, Supply and Services have already replied to the honourable member's question, and I thought in a very reasonable way, that they are going to make sure that the minister involved will be responding to the additional questions.
Thank you. Chair would also refer the member for Edmonton-Whitemud to the comments made by the chair yesterday at the end of question period with respect to a point of order that had been raised previously by the Minister of Career Development and Employment, and comments made by the member for Edmonton-Kingsway. This matter of making issues public and naming individuals into this assembly and through the media is one which where greater caution really ought to be exercised. Member for Wainwright.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the chairman of the Alberta Alcohol and Drug Abuse Commission. Drug and alcohol abuse is the most progressive terminal illness in Alberta society. It affects 1 in 4 young people and touches the lives of 14 others. Last fall it was announced by the Commission that they would set up a number of regional offices to bring counseling services to areas with a high degree of drug and alcohol abuse. Communities are anxiously waiting action on this announcement. Could the Minister update the Assembly on the timeline of when these offices will be in full operation, and in particular the Provost Office?
The Chairman of ADAC.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, with the tremendous support of the Premier and the government, ADAC did announce the addition of 5 area offices to assist communities in developing and enhancing their lifestyles by having support from various offices and support staff from ADAC. All 5 offices, Mr. Speaker, are presently in temporary locations. They have a supervisor in place, and I might add that we were fortunate that all supervisory positions were filled by ADAC staff who were pleased to have a transfer into some of our rural communities. And we've also added 1 support staff that was hired and that we had indicated support to the community that we would endeavor to add the support staff from that community that the office was placed into. And I might say that that position has been filled. And the 3rd position of a second counselor is presently being advertised and will be also filled, we hope, from each of those communities. Insofar as the operation in full place, once the Public Works has given us the full space that's required, these offices will be completed between now and June.
Thank you. The problem of substance abuse continues to cause many Alberta communities a lot of concern. What additional expansion plans do you have for these regional offices?
Mr. Speaker, ADAC has done many assessments as to needs throughout the province, and in particular our rural communities, separate to our major cities. And we continue to do an evaluation as to what those needs might be with our staff and the communities. And as resources become available, we will make every effort to place those resources into the communities as needed and as available. We feel that with ADAC, we have a unique organization, not only in Canada, but possibly in the world, that provides the widest range of education, prevention, and treatment services of any organization of its nature in the world.
Clover Byre, followed if there's time by Stony Plain.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Potable water is a necessity for Alberta residents, and in the area southeast from Edmonton, we have ongoing difficulties with the quality of water as well as insufficient quantities of water. Strathcona County, the County of Beaver, the communities of Ardrossan, Antler Lake, DeVille, North Cooking Lake, Tofield, Riley, and Holden, as well as Viking, have joined in discussion to address these water concerns and have submitted a proposal for a regional water line to the Minister of Transportation and Utilities, will our government seriously consider this proposal and assist these municipalities in providing potable water in sufficient quantities for their residents?
Mr. Speaker, in response to the honourable member, the best answer I can give right now is that we are working with the county on the proposal that was relative to Highway 14, and that I would assume that I'll be able to have more discussions in more detail when I get into my estimates.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Further, there is some time pressure with some of these communities, particularly the town of Tollfield, who needs a water treatment plant. Can the minister then indicate that this project might be initiated early enough so that those municipalities do not incur expenditures for alternate water treatment systems, which may become redundant if the regional water line comes on stream?
My best answer, Mr. Speaker, would be I hope so.
Stony Plain.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, everyone agrees that community schools play an important and healthy role in meeting the needs of students and families. I was pleased to hear the minister's promise that funding for existing community schools is secure. Mr. Speaker, the community school concept involves a number of departments, and that coordination needs to be strengthened, not cut back. My question to the Minister of Education is, if the minister is so committed to community schools, then why is he in the process of disbanding the Interdepartmental Community School Committee office, thereby risking the isolation of community schools from other government agencies instead of increasing liaison?
Mr. Speaker, we are in the process of strengthening the community school program by putting in place the Assistant Deputy Minister as the chairman of that interdepartmental committee, and then making sure that the regional offices throughout the province are in greater contact and closer touch with the community schools, some 67 throughout the province. So, Mr. Speaker, clearly our commitment to the community schools program is there. In fact, it's stronger than ever. And as I've mentioned in the legislature in the past, we're now moving on to what I call the next generation of community schools, with a pilot project in Calgary and the four boards in Calgary and Edmonton, by focusing on the needs of students in the inner city-like schools who have needs that are different and perhaps greater needs for education as well as social programs, to help those students in those schools get over the hurdles that are there in the way of their getting a quality education. So, Mr. Speaker, between our community school program and our high needs program, I can say that this government is very much in tune with what the needs of kids are.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it appears the committee is staying. In any effect, Mr. Speaker, I agree with the Minister that the community schools concept is widely supported. There are 30 qualified, committed community schools which have not received the funding that they were entitled to because of this government's callous suspension of the accreditation process of community schools. These volunteer groups can be forgiven for saying enough is enough when there has been no funding for new community schools since 1983. My question to the Minister of Education is this. Given that the Minister has cut the coordinating committee, or in this case has denied cutting the committee, what assurances will he give to this Assembly and to those 30 schools that he is not freezing the program forever?
Mr. Speaker, instead of just responding to community school applications on a preferential basis, first in, first received, we're instead going to the next generation of community schools and focusing on those schools where students have the greatest needs. And, Mr. Speaker, I think that's a responsible way to spend taxpayers' dollars rather than an unfettered distribution of funds to the first people who apply. And better we focus on the needs of children and focusing just on those needs and making sure that the highest needs are met first. And that's what the High Needs Program does. We're in a pilot program in Calgary and Edmonton right now in the 4 school boards there. And I look forward to that program being successful and hopefully providing my colleagues and all members of the Assembly the evidence to show that that kind of a program is worth funding. And who knows, we may be seeking further funding in the years ahead.
Edmonton Beverly, if there's time, Calgary Northwest.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Edmonton Beverly just under the wire. May we have unanimous consent to have this series of questions? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Edmonton Beverly.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Minister of Municipal Affairs indicated in this Assembly that there are 3 or 4 portfolios of the Alberta Mortgage Housing Corporation are up for sale, so the government can recover every dollar possible as a result of history of waste and mismanagement. The Minister, Mr. Speaker, suggested that I was misleading this House in terms of numbers, and while he may have his own version of the dollar amount, he did not deny that this government is going to sell off the operations of the Alberta Mortgage Housing Corporation. Then my question to the Minister is this: will he confirm in this Assembly that he has agreed to sell the mortgage lending portfolios to Montreal Trust, and that 5 other companies are vying to purchase the 2 other commercial portfolios, namely real estate and land?
Mr. Speaker, to the honourable member, under the responsibility that I have with the Alberta Mortgage and Housing Corporation, we have some $2.1 billion in mortgages. 1.1 billion of those are in 2 programs called the CHIP and MAP program, the Core Housing Incentive Program and the Modest Apartment Program. $600 million of that mortgage portfolio is with regards to single-family residences. So there are, in a sense, 2 main categories of mortgages. In reviewing the Alberta Mortgage and Housing Corporation responsibilities, which are a broad base of responsibilities with regards to real estate and land and mortgages, I have said that I want to look at all the possibilities of transferring the responsibilities back to the private sector. Any land or real estate or mortgage that I have that can be sold off and taken out from under the umbrella of government administration, it is our intention as a government to do that. And Mr. Speaker, that is our intention with regards to the discussions that are going on with various groups that have the capability of buying the mortgages. That is at the discussion stage. There is no definite or final decision made at this point in time. It is in the discussion stage, and properly so.
Supplementary.
Well, Mr. Speaker, obviously it's time for a change. When this government is ignoring the needs of working families, not only by kicking them out of their homes, as has been the case with the Alberta Mortgage Housing Corporation all over the province, but by taking off jobs of people. The fact that Mr. Speaker, the fact is that the portfolios are being sold to a company which already deals in lands and real estate.
Order, please, order. Honourable member, please. You know, the House is given the extra courtesy of extending question period. Let's have the question, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The fact is that the portfolios are sold.
Shut up! Thanks very much, honourable member. Thank you very much. Straight to the question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the minister confirm that as a result of the sale to Montreal Trust and other assorted companies, the number of jobs eliminated in the main and branch offices of the Alberta Mortgage Housing Corporation is approximately 70%, or some 315 jobs?
Honourable member, that's a question. Thank you. Let's not try the patience of the whole House forever. Thank you very much. Minister of Municipal Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I have 2 comments in response to the honourable member. First of all, the slurs in the opening comments are very unbecoming of the member, and I think that in the future the honourable member should write his own questions, because I know he can present it in a responsible manner about his concern with regards to the employee.
Okay, next.
And secondly, I gave him the benefit of the doubt.
All right, let's do the second part. Let's get on with it.
My apology for standing. Mr. Speaker, in response to the question with regards to the employees of the Alberta Mortgage and Housing Corporation, we are carrying on one of the most open reviews of any kind of administrative establishment that could ever be carried on.
Hear, hear.
All of the changes, all of the matters that are under discussion are in total public view to every one of those employees. They will know that at a point in time when we do not have further responsibility for a function, that we will have to look at other opportunities of employment for those persons, and we are treating them with the utmost of care and responsibility and compassion, and that is how it's handled. There will not be a Monday morning when pink slips come. There will be days when we sit down and discuss the changes with the employees, because I am concerned and the Premier is concerned, and that was the terms of reference for this review, that we show our full compassion, and we are, and that we will work out the best alternatives for those people when we transfer responsibilities back to the private sector for functions where they rightly should be.
Right on. Point of order already in progress. Clover Bar.
Mr. Speaker, I want to cite Beauchesne 482 sub 1, Beauchesne 6th edition. Mr. Speaker, I want to apologize to you first for I could not gain your attention early enough, and I waited until the Premier had finished his response. My point of order relates to the question asked by the honourable member from Edmund Jasper Place. I believe he referred to the honourable Premier by his first given name. Mr. Speaker, I find that somewhat disrespectful, not in accordance with the custom.
Thank you, honourable member. That's sufficient, as pointed out the other day with respect to another one of the caucuses. It's up to the individual member to raise that matter, and I'm quite certain the Premier has all the capacity needed to fend for himself. Thank you. Edmonton Kingsway, point well
made. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wanted to reply to a point of order raised the other day in which you commented on.
Thank you very much. That's entirely out of order. Take your place. Take your place, honourable member. I'm sorry, honourable member. The chair indeed is quite willing to meet with the member after the House. Once the point of order has been given, so be it. Standing Order 40, Edmonton Meadowlark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to formally move that it be resolved that the Government of Alberta congratulate the University of Alberta Environmental Association, the Environmental Campus Organization, the Association for Environmental Concerns Today, and the Edmonton bicycle commuters on their rally today at the university, and encourage them in their efforts to organize the No Car Day at the University of Alberta on April 6, 1990. Mr. Speaker, there is growing concern in this province, in fact in the world today, with the greenhouse effect and the contribution to it of carbon dioxide from fossil fuel consumption. Alberta produces about 0.5% or 1/200 of all of the carbon dioxide that is produced in the world, and therefore has a huge role to play in solving the problem, and has a huge economic stake in ensuring that its resolution is not inconsistent with our energy industry. Solutions exist, in part, in individual action to conserve through alternate transportation modes. And for that reason, Mr. Speaker, I think that it is important that the legislature today congratulate the organizers of that rally at the university and encourage them in their efforts to undertake the No Car Day at the University of Alberta on April 6, 1990, and I would ask that the members of the legislature approve this resolution.
Understanding Order 40, it is a request for unanimous consent to go forward. Those members in favor of granting unanimous consent because of the case of urgency, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. No. It's a curious, strange thing. Orders of the day.
Written questions.
Speaker, I move that